Hi everyone, welcome to Babes with Books at the third installment. I'm Shauna Severani and we have Leslie and Maya here as well, and tonight we're going to be talking about The Magician by Lev Grossman. Welcome everyone. Be sure that you comment on our Pandora's Books and Teas Facebook on the event page. We're live, and give us a comment or a question and we would love to chat with you. So thanks for joining us. So The Magicians is told from the perspective of the main character, Quentin Coldwater, interesting name, who finds out that he's a magician just before he graduates from high school. And he's accepted into Break Bills, which is a magician's school similar to Hogwarts, actually. So it's kind of interesting there. So he stays there for his college years, and there's a lot of the typical college activities that go on there while he's there, as well as a little bit of magic thrown in. So it's really cool.
What activities are those?
He's a very melancholy character, and he always seems to be looking for something and thinks that it exists in a world that's in his imagination called Fillory, which is from a book book series that he read when he was a child. And little does he know, but that he and his friends find later on in the book that this place actually exists. And they go there and they battle the beast. So that's all I will tell you about the book, but there's a lot of interesting things, and this is book one of the trilogy. Yeah. So ladies, what did you think of the book?
Well, I liked the book. I thought it was a really interesting idea. As someone who loved the Harry Potter series as well as C.S. Lewis's The Narnia, this is really a mashup between those two things. So regardless of the writing or the characters or anything like that, I felt very nostalgic when I was reading this book, and I was like, oh yay, I get to take these books that I loved from childhood. And I guess Harry Potter wasn't from my childhood. I wish I was that young. But experience them kind of in a more adult form, which I thought was kind of neat. Like Harry Potter, the college years, which was kind of... So I liked it. I thought it was good. Maya?
I didn't really like the book. No, I didn't. Although we talked about the book, we kind of prepped for this together a little bit ahead of time, just go over what questions we're going to talk about. And I said I hated the book that day.
So you toned it down a little.
I am. That was the night after I'd finished the book, and I did feel that way. That was about a week ago. But I'd had some distance, and I actually read some interviews with the author, Lev Grossman, and I can see what he was trying to do a little bit more clearly now after hearing it from himself. I still feel that, personally, I felt that the characters were quite underdeveloped, as well as the setting. And it felt very rushed to me. The book goes through 6 years, does it go through? Or more? It goes through at least 6 years. Yeah. And I didn't really enjoy that. I mean, maybe that comes from a Harry Potter standpoint where you got a year for every book. So that I didn't quite feel ensconced in the world or involved in the characters as I have in other works of fiction.
It's interesting because the last book, if you read the entire trilogy, that whole, if rushed is 6 years, by the time you get to the very last book in the series, I think he's something like 40 or...
Really?
Oh yeah,
oh,
no,
wow.
he's
all 3 books are quite a few years then.
I did not know
yeah.
that.
Okay. So yeah, that was kind of my opinion on it. But
yeah. What about you, Shauna?
I actually listened to this book on my many drives, and I actually really liked it. I thought it was really fun. Again, because I loved Narnia and Harry Potter, so similar to you, Leslie. I liked that mashup. I kept thinking, oh, this is kind of like such and such, and so it really drew me in. And listening to it, I think, was maybe a little different because it had an accent and the characters. So it kind of came to life a little bit more. So maybe that was different.
Was it a cast recording or a single?
No, it was a single, but he did the voices really, really well. I can't remember his name, but it was really, really, really good. And I just thought it was a really fun story, and yeah, it did move fairly quickly, but again, I was listening to it, so maybe that was good for me.
Sorry, a bit of a frog in my throat. So I guess for me, this book, even though it was set kind of in the college years, we start off with Quentin and his group of friends still trying to figure out what they're doing after college, applying for different universities. And Quentin is very depressed, and basically there's a lot of things in this book that are very what we would consider typical teenage behaviors. Being emotionally careless about who you interact with and connect with, and adolescent depression and things like that, like being bored and not really knowing your place and not really knowing where you're going to go in life. So do you think that this book, I guess, let's take the look at magic, because we all want magic, right? If you had magic, do you think magic would enhance or make life easier for teenagers or harder?
Sorry.
Go ahead, Shauna.
I think it would make it harder. You're already out of control as far as hormones and everything else goes. Throw magic in the mix, and who knows what you're going to do with that. I once wrote an article about university students being taught how to write viruses, computer viruses. And to me, you don't have the connection with reality yet to know what you should and shouldn't do. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. And who said that? Malcolm said that in Jurassic Park, right?
Yes.
Same sort of thing with magicians here. Like, they have the power, then they don't necessarily know how to use that power.
And I think Lev Grossman makes that comment with this story about Alice's brother, and there's the other female character who has a crush and feels that she needs to be more beautiful for that.
Janet?
Yes, is it Janet? And so she does a spell, but it's well known that you can't do a spell to make yourself more beautiful in this fictional world. And things go quite horribly wrong, and there is a death because of that. So
I like the consequences of that, though, that it wasn't just like in the Harry Potter books, which was written for juveniles, not adults, where they do this potion, and there's a cat hair in there, and Hermione's all of a sudden looks like a cat, and it has to be fixed. But in this case, it's like a spell went horribly wrong, you tried to use magic or the wrong way, and now someone dies.
yes.
So there's something, I guess, a little truthful about that.
Yeah. Consequences to things, learning from that. I think that magic would be a curse, because I think you would be searching for ways like that. I think you would be searching ways to make yourself more beautiful, smarter. You would be actually searching for ways to find your adult self, because you're not your adult self as a teenager. You don't discover who you are.
But you sure want to be.
A number of years.
Yeah.
Yes, you definitely want
Just
to
want
get
to be
there.
grown up.
You want to get there, and so I think you would be using a lot of spells to get there.
See, it's interesting, because as I'm listening to you guys, I feel like the arguments you guys are using, and I don't know that I necessarily disagree with you, but they're arguments that people say about not teaching children about sex. If we tell them about it, then they're going to use it. If we give them condoms, then they're just going to use them. If you give them magic, then they're just not going to know. They're not responsible enough. So if I say that, does it change your opinion a little bit? I'm just playing
I
devil's
think
advocate.
I'd probably tell my children about sex, and I would probably give them condoms. So perhaps I'm not the best person to be equipped to compare.
Just like if you
or to
grew
play
up.
devil's advocate. But no, I don't think I'm saying that they shouldn't have it because they would be irresponsible. I think they shouldn't have it because they'd be searching for more constantly.
Well, and if you grew up in a household that you knew that there was magic and you were taught about it
From
from
the
an
beginning.
early age, and your parents had this open dialogue with you, it's kind of similar. Whereas if it's, well, now you have magic, and in Quentin's case, he didn't realize magic even existed, and Fillory even existed, and now this thing that he's been longing for all his life has been given to him, and I don't know that he necessarily knows how to use it effectively. So. And that to his detriment.
Yeah, I would. That's definitely a good way of putting it. I agree with you there.
So he didn't know, but some of the other characters did know.
Yes.
They grew up
And
with the
the
knowledge.
one character that you can think of, Alice, is quite strong. She can quite like emotionally. I would say she's quite strong emotionally and isn't as.
He didn't know, but some of the
So we just got a question online actually, which kind of feeds into this, which is a great one. So Jason asks, but wouldn't you agree that the magic unifies these characters who feel alone and segregated, and gives them kind of that society to be a part of, just like a clan or a guild in WoW? World of Warcraft, if anyone doesn't know what WoW is. So like online MMOs, we always say to kids, and I would agree with you, Jason, that's my personal opinion, that I think that having that community all of a sudden, like Quentin was like lost and depressed and seeing therapists, and actually he was kind of taking himself out of society, and now he had a place to belong, and he felt like he had a family all of a sudden.
Yeah, and they're all a little different. Like these students at Breakbills are different. They're not like the mainstream kind of people. So, yeah, I can see this gave them their little niche, their little family to belong to. So, yeah, that's true. It was a good place for them. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm having trouble thinking through this. Yeah, teenagers are hard. It's really hard to talk about teenagers and not feel like you're being an adult about them.
Yeah.
So, or judgmental,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, can we really? It's a part of life. So everybody goes through it, and everybody learns in different ways. Like you said, there's so many different characters. So. Yeah, I guess magic is like another club. So yeah, Jason, I do agree that maybe it gave people strength. I don't think it gave Quentin strength in the book. I feel he was still lost at Breakbills. Quentin is still lost at the end of this book. I actually think from hearing about the trilogy that Quentin is still lost at the end of the trilogy, from a very basic telling of it. Maybe more found, but still lost. And perhaps that says something to depression, which is a major theme, according to Lev Grossman, of the book. You know, if Quentin is a sufferer of depression, it doesn't mean that it's going to go away when he's a teenager. He may have moments where he's a little more lucid or understanding
And magic
things.
doesn't just, there's no magic wand that will solve something
No,
like that.
Right.
No.
And he
So,
finds that out time and
yeah,
again.
the teenager questions are hard for me, actually. It starts
Your
to get a
kids
little
aren't there
hard
yet.
when, I'm still at that age where I have little kids and I still look at teenagers as kind of assholes. Like, I just think, like, ugh, but I know they're not. I know they're just where they're at. So I guess, sorry, I'm just totally struggling with that, with that topic.
Yeah.
I can't really wrap my head around it.
So you think parents should have magic then?
No, I don't. Like, exactly, right? Like I said, I was really having a hard
hard.
time. Just because I think teenagers are assholes doesn't mean... That's why I'm all of a sudden realizing, no, it's not very nice to say they shouldn't have magic. Like, it is. It's this weird adult way of looking at this age group. And it, yeah.
So, Shauna, you have teenagers.
Yes.
Would you want your teenagers to have magic?
Well, again, now as we're discussing,
Right?
it's
Like,
like
so...
it is very similar to not giving them condoms, and it's forcing my opinion of what they should and shouldn't do. Yet when I was a teenager, I was trying things. We all tried things. That was part of getting those decision-making pathways
None of us tried things, Dad.
figured out
None
in our...
of us tried things.
None of us tried things. You know, and this was just
I was
another...
a really good teenager mom.
Somehow I believe
Really good.
Yeah, right? Like,
Me
it's a
too.
weird...
Yes.
What
My
about
mom would
Quentin
say I
then?
am.
So do you feel, I just stated that I don't think he was really grown up at the end. Did you guys think? Because
At
they
the
are
end
in
of
their
this
20s.
book, no.
So
I
they
think it
go
made it
through
worse.
university. They
made
go
it
through
worse for
university. The book then they're at least a year out, and then the book concludes with a dramatic conclusion. So he's definitely in his 20s.
Yeah.
But
20-year-old male?
I get it a little bit more because Lev Grossman was like writing, he's like saying that it's who he was and his experience as an adolescent. There are some characters in fictional novels that I wish I could punch in the face. And Quentin was one of them.
You're very violent this evening.
Apparently. The main character in the Shopaholic series, that was one of them. And Quentin is one of them. The girl from Girl on the Train, she's a third one. Mm-hmm. But Quentin was definitely, he just drove me crazy. I felt like he was a selfish, greedy, and like just out to lunch, like not thinking about anybody else character. He really annoyed me.
Well, and I think he got worse in the book because he got what he wished for, right?
Yeah.
How many of us
That's exactly
get what we wish for, and then we go, oh,
yeah,
wait
like
a minute,
I
this
wanted
is not what I wanted.
He was more annoying. Exactly. He was
And
like, oh,
now I'm
I got
gonna pout
magic.
and-
Oh, I'll get drunk, and I'll just complain that it isn't enough.
Yeah.
So we have a question about magical systems from Jean-Paul online here. So older fantasy books frequently made use of magic systems reliant on some kind of mystical deity, while more recent stories tend to be grounded in magic systems based on emotion. Grossman has talked about trying to mix and meld both of these in his series. And Jean-Paul is wondering kind of how we feel, what's our opinion on how well he was able to manage that goal of mixing emotional. And I think I would agree actually that a lot of newer fantasies, well, if you've read any Brandon Sanderson is amazing at coming up with new and interesting magical systems.
Definitely about emotion, though.
But yeah, a lot of them nowadays
Good
are
call.
more emotional based. Like you have to feel it. And I don't know, as a writer too, it's like it takes kind of the scientific force out of it. But I think our society has evolved in such a way that not everything is reliant on a deity. So I think that if your magic is reliant on someone like Aslan, as was suggested here, then you're cutting off a certain subsect of your readership that might not relate to that, whereas everyone can relate to being angry or depressed or upset at some point in time. So did Grossman do a good job of this?
Yeah, this was a really surprising question. I didn't expect it. Mm-hmm. I think he did. I think that there was some good. Magic is quite hard in The Magicians. Yep. The kids really have to study very hard. Lots of languages, lots of words. It's all about words and hand movements.
Yep.
And I did like that. I liked that he made magic a real thing rather than a purely emotional connection. So. And I think that's that older magic where you had to have like a power coming from somewhere that you had to pull from.
But yet they did mix it, because if you look at when they went down to Breakbill South and they turned into geese and foxes, that was very much of a, they had to get naked and
which is another
shed everything and feel and let their instincts take.
And that scene is pulled from another book as well. I just read. So
really?
Yes. So yeah, Lev Grossman studied comparative literature in school, and then he was a literary critic. And so they are all through the book in a number of different ways.
Not to include other pieces of stories.
So I guess that's a big thing online, is to find the different allusions that he made, and that's from Once and Future King by T.H. White.
So we've talked, I'm just going to throw this question out there too, because it kind of relates to what you just said, Maya. Mm-hmm. Do you think it's fair that he took all of these pieces from other books and just was like, I'm going to throw them together and have a book?
Well, I didn't think it was fair a week ago. Like I said, I've read a few articles. So one interesting kind of comment, I don't know if it was Lev Grossman or the interviewer that said it, was that people can write things and bring in Shakespeare, and they can bring in Pride and Prejudice or Jane Austen or different sort of classics, and think of all the fairy tale retellings you've seen through fiction lately. It's been a huge, but they can do that without getting criticized. Yet because Lev Grossman has done it with a more modern pieces, it felt very jolting to me. I struggled with it as I was reading. I thought, why didn't I just read those books? But that thought did make me question how I read it.
I felt he was a little too close. Like, okay, so as a writer, someone who takes, I love writing fractured fairy tales. That's my genre. But when I write a story, I take it and I completely change it. So it might have some of the same characters, it might have some of the same themes, but overall it's a completely different story. Whereas I felt this was, oh, he read a book when he was a kid about Narnia, Fillory, and you have to go through a fountain to get there, and when you get there, you become kings and queens.
There was lampposts.
You know, and so it was a lot the same. It wasn't just loosely based on. So I kind of felt a little gypped, even throughout the entire series. I've read all 3, and that continues throughout. So
people who like the series feel that he did a good job, whereas I felt. And I'm just going to use the word, not that I'm actually accusing, but I felt like it verged on plagiarism. It didn't feel like allusions to me, but it felt more like you just literally took sentences and cut and pasted in some situations. And like I said, just with symbolism, like the lamppost, like I thought, like that's what happens in Narnia, like the lamp, for real? Like, come on, use something else, like... So it was those very, very direct
the clock tree,
comparisons that really bothered me. Whereas when I was reading and I was like, oh, I didn't realize that came from that. Those ones were a little, I don't know, they feel a little bit more acceptable to me.
Because there was popular fiction, which is what you were saying. Yeah. I don't know. You haven't said anything yet, Sean.
Well, I read a book called Steal Like an Artist by Austin Kleon.
Ooh, Steal Like an Artist.
Steal Like an Artist. And basically the gist of it is every artist steals something from someone. That's what the word mashup means. And, you know, there's how many songs are redone and put through the ringer, basically, and just remade into something else. And there's a great country music song out right now that mashes up I Will Always Love You and Country Roads, and, you know, all these artists sing it together. And it's just another way to celebrate that art, I think.
So why are we okay with it when musicians and artists do it? Like, you take a piece of, you know, Van Gogh's painting and you make it your own, or you do your own thing, but we're not okay with it when it's literary.
But I think I am okay, because I have read books where allusion is used, and I haven't disliked them. I think I disliked this book because of other reasons that I mentioned. I didn't like the character development. Never mind, didn't like the characters, but just the character development felt lacking. I felt that I was missing pieces from each character. I didn't get why they were, who they were, and what was happening. And I also felt that way about the setting. I felt that way about Breakbills, that there were these areas that he kept mentioning and then would just leave it floundering. So perhaps those allusions bothered me more because I didn't like the book as a whole.
Yeah, you had your backup already, maybe.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So another question from online on a less serious note. What song do you imagine that Quentin listens to and dances to in his head?
Oh, something dark and brooding. I don't think he dances. He's like a swayer. He's just
The suggestion is maybe ABBA.
No, definitely not ABBA.
No, ABBA would be too peppy for
Yeah.
Quentin.
I listen to that in my head.
If it was something popish, it'd be something like I Feel Sorry for, like U2, maybe. Like, yeah.
Something punk rock.
No, he's not that cool.
Alanis Morissette
Rage
when she was
Against the
depressed.
Machine.
Right.
That kind of music.
No, like I'm thinking, like
Isn't
he's-
it ironic?
Yeah, there you go.
I don't know when this was published, but he's like an emo. I don't quite know that term. I'm too old to really understand what that means, but that's what it makes me think of is people they refer to as that.
Yeah.
So we've talked a lot about these books that have come up and how Lev Grossman, pulled from some of these books that he really liked. And the whole book is also about the main character, Quentin, and how much he loves this Fillory series. He rereads it constantly, and his whole life is just, for years, centered around it and wondering about it. Of course, the author dies before the last book is published, so that's what he is always questioning. And then when he discovers that magic is real, he becomes even more concerned with the books and wondering if they could be real. And so have you yourself ever been as involved as Quentin in some childhood books? Do you guys ever reread your childhood favorites, or enjoy them to the depth that Quentin has? Do you see yourself in them?
Yeah, I practically made, well, I did. I made my son listen to Little House on the Prairie books that I had to read to him.
Wow.
Because that was just, you know, they're such perfect stories. And this was the
Great
story
for
about
a
me.
son. Yeah.
I was the little girl in the
Just
prairie.
teasing you.
So we never did get through them all, though. I was sad about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No.
And then my daughter, she wasn't interested either. So that was the end of my Little House on the Prairie adventure as an adult.
Do you go back to any books, though, that make you feel, like, safe? Does Quentin go back to these Fillory books because they make him feel safe, bring him back to, you know, a place when he, you know,
I think
happier?
that's why I will not let go of my Nancy Drew books, because they make me feel safe. Yeah, those were the books I snuck in bed and read.
Yeah.
That was my quiet space. That was my space. Yeah.
How about you?
Well, actually, I wasn't a reader growing up. Interestingly enough, I struggled with reading. So, are you laughing at my inability to read? My lack of literacy?
Says
Wow.
the librarian
I know.
bookstore owner. Like it's
So I guess the
random.
main lesson in that,
Change.
kids, is that you can grow up not reading and still write books, own a bookstore, and
I'm
be a
sorry I laughed
librarian.
at you in public.
I know. But it's actually an interesting question because I didn't come into reading until I was later in senior high school. And one of my favorite books was Canticle for Leibowitz. And I tend to have this rule, thank you, that I don't read books again. There's so much out there to read, so I don't need to read it again. There's a couple like Harry Potter and some of my favorites that I have read again, but stuff from childhood I don't tend to go back to. But someone said, well, why not? So last month I was like, I'm going to read Canticle for Leibowitz again. Terrible. I hated it. I was like, why did I like this book? It was not a good book. Like it was a good concept, but I feel like something was stolen from me now that I liked this book. And
I
now
felt that
don't.
way about the Raccoons show. Do you guys
Oh,
remember that
I
show?
love the raccoons.
Don't rewatch it.
I own it.
Oh, yeah.
I've watched Cedric. Love it.
So I have a series of books that I reread like at least once a year. It's much like your Nancy Drews, although I don't know if you still read them in your covers at night, but I go back to them. I read them. There's 3 of them. They make me feel happy. I feel like she's my friend, the main character, and I know everything about her violet eyes and her like dark black hair, and she's just so perfect and lovely, and I just still feel safe and happy when I read them, and I totally do. Like it's my little... So I get where he felt with Fillory.
What books?
It's a trilogy by Ellen Montgomery, who is the author of Anne of Green Gables, but it's not the Anne of Green Gables series. It's Emily of New Moon. So, yeah, I think I don't reread Anne of Green Gables because that's a big commitment. That's 7 or 9 books, right? Like
Just the first one, that's all you
Emily is a little bit easier. It's 3, so.
You read the entire series again.
Yeah.
So we do have 2 more questions from online, so I'd like to get to those. I know
Okay.
we're almost time to wrap up here, so but I would like to get to these, so we'll do some quick questions here. So illusion or Easter eggs can be a lot of fun. It's a great idea to think that you're picking up on something that only a few other people notice. Maybe it's less fun when it's too obvious. So that kind of goes back to kind of the
Yep.
why. So would you agree with that Easter eggs in books are kind of...
Yeah, I
fun?
agree. Yep, I totally agree.
For sure.
And that's Lev Grossman even said. He said that some people come and they will send him emails or letters and say like, oh, I found this really hard to find one and he's like, I didn't even really write that like that way, but awesome. Like,
And
yeah.
I love Easter eggs, and if you like a book, I'll recommend one that has a lot of Easter eggs, especially for my generation. Read Ready Player One.
Yes.
It's amazing. It's awesome.
Movie,
It's all
2017.
80s music and 80s video games, and yeah, it's great.
And I'm also not one of those people that like if I watch a movie or play a video game, I don't want to go online for the cheats or for
Gotta
different
do it
things
yourself.
like that. Like you
Yeah.
gotta, yeah. So
What about you? Do you have any books Easter egg wise that you like, or do you
No.
prefer everything to just be laid out?
Yeah.
Do you stay till the end of the credits though for like the secret scene?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
that's an Easter egg, right? Like who doesn't get excited about those nowadays? Right?
Howard
It's like
the
you
Duck,
feel like you
right?
deserve one.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, if there's nothing after the credits, I feel
I know.
like
Stay for
shit.
trolls.
Yeah.
Stay for trolls.
Can't wait to see trolls. Okay, well, last question.
Okay.
Do you feel that the evil portrayed in this book is a metaphor for the struggle of good versus evil and has been brought to life in the world that shows the choice or difficult choices in life?
I must say, though, these questions are all from a certain gentleman. His name's Jason, and I have to say, Jason, it seems like you read that book, and you should be down here on this panel with us.
You should be one of our babes.
Like, thanks for
maybe we'll have to bring some people on.
tuning in and asking so many awesome questions. Yeah, that's great.
Totally.
Sorry, go ahead and answer his question, though. But
Go ahead,
I
Shauna.
was just
Actually, yeah, this book, the evil that's in it is a little more modern. There's more. To me, it feels a little more modern than some of the other kind of. Well,
was
Harry
there
Potter.
an evil,
Yeah.
or was there just like a random bad guy? There's not really an evil. Like, there's not an overall evil. They're not
there is.
good.
There
beast.
isn't the
The
world
beast.
evil. The world's evil according
Yeah.
to Quentin.
And the thing,
But they're
with
not
the beast
saving
is that
anything.
Boring.
The beast
Yeah.
was created by the world and
Yeah.
the things that poor boy went through.
Yeah. Like, there isn't like a save the world from Voldemort or everything's going to be gone type of evil.
No.
It's,
But
there's
even
like
Voldemort had, I mean, he grew up. Can he be blamed for the way he was brought up?
no, but you
You
can
just
be
said his
blamed
name,
for
by the
murdering
way.
people. Like,
Yes.
like,
Your choices after that.
come on, like, we're not letting Voldemort off the hook here, are we? Is that where we're headed?
Team Voldemort. Vote Voldemort. Sorry. Too soon.
I think Leslie voted for Trump, too. Goodness.
This is live online, right? I'm from Canada, okay?
Oh my.
Okay,
well,
so
what's
what's
next?
next month, ladies?
Next month we have House of Silk, which is a
Mystery.
mystery. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sherlock Holmes mystery for crying
Yes.
out loud. It is another one that I listened to. It is by, let me just remember the author's name, Anthony Horowitz. So that is The House of Silk.
Super excited about this one.
Yep. Yeah. And we have started talking about books for 2017 as well. So if you have any suggestions for discussion or you think fun books that would make a good Babes with Books video,
Leave
please
a
let us
comment
know. We'd love to know
wherever
some,
it is.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Down there.
Down below, on the side. I don't know how you have your screen.
That's right. We're looking at some comedy books next.
Thanks for tuning in, though. We love coming out. Actually, it's a little nerve wracking before we start, but then we sink right into it actually and have some fun. So, and it's fun to discuss the books. And I don't know, I always come away feeling really different about them. So I love that about it.
And thank you to Dino and for.
Yes, Brass Media does our filming for us, and Pandora's Books offers us a space. So thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next month on the 8th, I think it is, the 8th of December. Second Thursday of the month.
Very good.
All right. Thanks, guys. Have
Bye.
a good night.
For tuning in, we'll see you next month.